Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're back at it. We're on a 2GR build this week. So for all you guys who are into 2GR, we're back. We're working on what you want to see. Last week I did an oil change on the Gen 5 3S GTE because I just had to get that service done. But there's a lot more content, as I mentioned, that we have on this 2GR. So today we're at a critical point because, well, I should say we're at a milestone because we have got one piece in that's very critical to this build. So we're going to go through, I'm going to show you that today. I was just looking at this engine, and honestly guys, this came off of eBay, ended up here, and I'll show a picture right now so you guys can see what exactly we received if you haven't been following. But look at the engine right now, look at where we were when it first started, and this is all in your own personal garage. This is what you can achieve. This doesn't involve any professional work. It's just you at home with simple products just making this happen. And I think for what we've achieved here, I think it looks pretty good. And I know when this goes in the car, it's gonna look like a professional job, and it's not gonna look like it's a hack job or anything like that. So let's just take a moment, see where we are. I'm very proud of where the engine is at this point. But the purpose of this video is to get into essentially what you see missing here, which is our wire harness. So we finally got that back from Wire Gap. I'm gonna tell you, these guys have done a few harnesses for me right now, and they really do a professional job. I'm gonna show you what they've done, how well they've made this harness for this 2GR FE, and really just kind of shout out to these guys, just for doing an awesome job. I know a lot of guys take on wire harnesses, and it's a hit or miss. You may get it right, you may get it wrong, and honestly, if you get it wrong, it's just a rabbit hole. It's gonna take you forever to figure it out if you do, and you probably need the professionals anyways. So in my case, I haven't messed with wire harnesses yet. I send those out. Wire Gap, they do a good job for me, so definitely recommending those guys. Let's move right into the wire harness. Let me show you what we have. Alright guys, so here we have it. This is our 2GR harness that was basically adapted from a Toyota Avalon to work in our MR2. If you have any questions as to do you need to send anything from your MR2 to get this done, the answer is no. You literally take your 2GR harness from whatever engine you get it from, send it over to those folks at Wire Gap, and they can make it work for you. Depending on the harness, it may be, I want to say it may be an easier job for them, or more steps involved, but nevertheless these guys can get whatever you want done and get it fitted for your MR2. So here we have it, again, a wire harness. What we're going to see, wires and a whole bunch of plugs. So there's not much you're going to be able to tell what goes where with this thing on the ground. We're going to have to get it up on the engine, but I wanted to point out, when the harness comes back, it basically comes in vinyl electrical tape. I've done that with the Gen 5, and I thought, how can I up my game? How can I make this look a little bit better? So what I did is I went out and I bought some Tesa tape. This is high heat Tesa tape. Now, this is unlike your conventional, what you find in your hardware store, which is the vinyl electrical tape. This one is more, I want to say more like a cloth fiber, and it goes on really nice, as you'll see in a second here. And it just looks better in terms of cleaner look. It just looks good. So I'm gonna wrap the entire harness in this. I already started to do some of it. So we're essentially gonna get rid of what is typically the gray finish on OEM Toyotas. And of course, when they did the harness, they put in some patch pieces. So over here we had some black loom. So we're gonna get everything one color, nice and wrapped. And this is gonna protect this harness from heat, water, all the elements as we get it in the car. And of course, we know MR2s, the engine is in the back. When it rains, the engine bay gets wet. So I think this is going to really be helpful for our build right here. But I'll stop rambling and we'll get this on the engine and we'll show you how nicely this thing fits. Alright, so essentially we had two pieces. So we have this, I don't know what you call this, but basically this is the harness for the accelerator pedal. So this is drive-by-wire with the 2GR. So this is going to connect to your throttle pedal, which is inside the car, and it's going to run back to your ECU. So you'll get one of this with it. We're not going to use this right now, and this will eventually get loomed and wrapped once we're on the car and we're positioning it. But I want to get it inside first and kind of see how it's going to run before we do any wrapping or looming on this one. For the main harness, depending on which car you got it from, you might have a little different branch in terms of this plastic. This is from an Avalon, 2014 Avalon. So essentially we're gonna go, it fits right here. So you just there's a bolt. There are two bolt securing points. So we're just gonna use one right now to hold it up. So just get this bolt in. And you know, I recommend you start with this branch because it just helps you to position the harness, and then everything just kind of gets thrown over. All right, so here we go. That goes in, and then essentially you take this branch, just kind of put it on top of the valve cover on this side, and then we're gonna go over here, and we're gonna route this one, get it over on this side as well. Now, honestly guys, this is, outside of me wrapping this section, this is exactly the way it comes from these guys. And you're gonna see even the clamps that fit to the brackets. I mean, I'm sure they have like an engine that they build this on, because everything just lines up perfect, right? For today's video is really just a mock-up, so I'm just gonna plug it in. We're gonna remove it because I still gotta do some work here, and the lift is coming next week, so we'll be able to get the modifications done on the transmission. But let's move in, let's wrap this and move on. Alright guys, so hopefully you can see the difference it's making. I'm on the final branches here of the harness. So I'm just going to finish up these few pieces, and then we're going to go ahead and plug this in. But it just really looks a lot cleaner. And you know, I thought about this when I did the first swap, and you know, I thought it was overkill back then, but no, I'm really happy I went this route because this is looking very clean, and I think it just makes the build look a lot much better. So, you know, just take your time. I can tell you, it does take some time to wrap all of these things, but honestly, it's very satisfying. I don't know, I find it very satisfying to do this. I almost want to stretch this out a little bit, but I'm trying to get it done for the video. But I almost feel like I would want to stop and just every evening after work, just come and do a little bit sections of it, because it just kind of feels very satisfying to get done. Alright guys, so we got the entire harness wrapped, and again I'm using Tesa tape. It's model 51036. This is a high heat version of Tesa tape. There are different versions, so be careful when you go purchase this. There is one for interior, really nice tape as well, but that one is more of a fuzzy type of tape, and it helps with vibration on the interior. So there's an interior one, and this is one basically of exterior and engine base. Tesa 51036. So we're gonna put that off to the side, and now we're gonna get the harness kind of mocked up and everything plugged in. Just make sure we identify all our plugs, know what goes where. So as I mentioned before, the little triangle section goes in right here. So there's a bolt that will go in here and secure it. And this is really where you want to start. And again, you know, I'm no Toyota engineer, so I can't tell you that this is where you should or shouldn't start, but this seems like the easiest point to get this harness mocked up. Basically, just get this 10mm in here. We'll throw another one under here when we're going to put this in permanently. And essentially just kind of throw this leg over. So let's test wire gap and see how well. So we have our injector, 3 injectors right here. And as you can see, he put the brackets on, or you know, they were in position there before. So he just kind of left them in the right position. So this would go in here, and then this one gets here, this one gets there, and this one gets here. So again, perfectly lined up. This bracket goes onto there, so we're looking good. Then I have this section that's gonna come over, and this part bolts down right here. So let me see, this is probably a better way to do it. So flip this over. We'll put a 10mm nut on here, and then we should be able to get this one slipped in. And here we have our sensors. Now these will be for our coil packs. So the coil packs are not installed right now, but as you can see, the wire will definitely get where it needs to go. So 1, 2, and this harness actually goes underneath here. So this is a bracket for the upper intake manifold. I'm not gonna put that on right now because that's not what we're working on, but essentially this harness will go under here. So just get this bracket up, and this is gonna sit right under here just like that. kind of just do it for you guys to get an idea. All right, and then we have the rest of the wires plugged in. So it's a no-brainer because it literally, it just works, guys. It just works. All right. As you can see, everything is lining up. And then this plug in my hand, my right hand here, this one is basically gonna be for the upper intake manifold. There's another connector that basically goes up into here, and I tested it already, it works perfectly, okay? So that's it. this bank is done already. So moving over to the transmission side of things, as we mentioned, we're now going back to the triangular piece here. This is for a coil pack. This one up here is for the O2 sensor. So oxygen sensor on this bank. This is the plug for that. Under here, we have a grounding point. So I'll have to ground this on the block, let's say here. And this is painted, so I'll probably sand this down, make sure we got good metal contact, put that ground in there. And then this one connects to our NOx sensors, which is under here. And these were leading onto the little tunnel below the lower intake manifold, if you want to say. All right. This guy right here, this will go to our throttle body. And again, as we put the engine together, this will come alive a little bit better. But just wanted to show all the provisions. This wire here will go to our airflow sensor. So once we get our intake from our throttle body, it's going to plug up. And moving on to a few other wires. This is for starter. Reverse light on your transmission. This is if you have a 93 plus transmission. This is for the speedo. In my case, I'm putting a 91, so I don't need it, but it is available just in case you have a newer version of a transmission, 93 and up. These are for your fuse box. So the fuse box in the engine bay, these will have to get connected. Here's your OBD2 reader, and this is the cable that's going to connect into your throttle pedal. So this will be connected here, and it will basically lead up, and let me just test that. Lead up to your, yep, there you go. This will lead up to the throttle pedal inside the car. So that's why we have that much length of wire. Moving on, this goes into the trunk, basically where your ECU is. So all of these are essentially for the ECU, ECU, all of these are ECU connections. And we're gonna be using, more than likely, well, there's not many options. So Frankenstein's ECU is what we're gonna have to get for this application. So that kind of takes care of this branch. And now we're gonna move over to the other bank here. So we have our O2 sensor for this bank. That's that plug. Let's see. This is another grounding point. So we'll put it somewhere on the block. This goes to our switch over here, our vacuum solenoid. This is basically for the charcoal system. So I think this has to do with the evap system for the fuel. This is our temperature sensor, right? So this will be our water temperature sensor for inside the car. And I did change this sensor. I took the one that came with the car because we wanted to run a 3-wire. That's what the 2GR calls for. So you do a little bit of research, or I can provide some information if you need it, but you will swap this sensor with whatever engine you get. And again, everything is wired up nicely. All right, and then moving on to this side, very similar to the other bank, we have our 3 coil packs or solenoids. So this one goes into here. Actually, let me just position these. So here we go. I will get this one, and it's a very tight fit, but it just works, right? So this slips into here. All our old original brackets will line right up. These guys go in here. See that? Everything lines up perfectly. We have another ground here, and we have our injector, 3 plugs for injectors. 1, 2, 3. Coil pack, coil pack, coil pack. And then our solenoids are all lining up right here. All right, so as you guys see, everything is pretty smooth. Everything works really well. Look at this. It just plugs right in. There's no effort. You don't have to force anything. It just works. We come down to our alternator. Have our main power wire for the alternator here. This is the plug that goes into our alternator. Let's see. Yep, there you go. And then this wire goes to our AC line. So I've moved this bracket on this particular engine was over here. I moved it over and I put this one, so I literally can slip this right in here, and then everything just kind of lines up. We have our alternator wires here. This one goes to our AC compressor. In the back, I'm gonna have to take this compressor off, and if you're probably watching my video, I wasn't sure if I could keep this on, but we do have a plug back here. I believe it's the crank position sensor, so it has to be routed through here and down the back, and there's a plug back there which will plug in. So 4 bolts, and we drop this compressor out, take the belt off, and we'll be able to plug it in. And then this one is, I believe it's the oil pressure sensor, which is under here. And that's it, guys. Very simple, you know, easy process in terms of what wire gap did for this harness. Even here, this goes into the factory piece that goes into the trunk. I've seen swaps where you got to punch an additional, you know, hole in the trunk, and it's not the end of the world, but you have to cut the car. And I like to keep the car as factory as I possibly can. Just modify it where we're adding to the value but not destroying the vehicle at the same time. Okay, so there you have it. This is a harness. Just looking at it as a whole, you know, again, this is not the most beautiful engine, but with all these little modifications that we did, I think it really brings up the look as best as you can on a 2GR at least. And tell me what you guys think. Tell me what you guys think about this Tesa tape that we used. Does it make a difference? In your mind, does it make a difference? I think it does. You know, looking at my Gen 4 over here, you know, you can see we have the, you know, what we typically see, the vinyl tape. And a lot of times with these vinyl, you know, they just start lifting. Like I put some of the Tesa here because the vinyl I'd put here started to lift already. So I may just go over this whole thing with Tesa tape as well. You know, it's just, I mean, it's a different look. I wouldn't say it's not a good look, but it's a different look. So this is the Gen 4, and obviously we're working on the 2GR. All right, guys, so it is a very hot day, afternoon here in Florida. Summer is upon us, and we're still working on 2GR. There is a lot of content that we have coming up, so don't go nowhere. There's plenty to come. So let's talk about what we have left and kind of like the steps, what you guys can look forward to seeing. All right, so in terms of what we have to go in getting this engine ready, I have the lift. I just don't have it physically here, but it's at my friend's house, and we just got to bring it over. So we want to get the engine off the stand, and then we have to do some modifications to the block, so that's coming up next. Parts, I'm on the last order to get all the parts I need to finish this up, which includes the flywheel, ECU, AC lines, fuel system, so that's coming in. That everything else I have ready to go. So we're moving along. We have quite a few videos to go, and I know, guys, this is a journey. You know, I know guys finish this stuff in a weekend, but one, you know, I'm doing this as a hobby, and two, you know, this is kind of entertainment for a lot of us. Every week you look forward to something else. So if we kind of hurry and do this thing, then it's over. We got to buy another car, buy another MR2, a red MR2 in fact. So if you have a red MR2, I'm looking at a red MR2. Maybe you can help me out to locate a red MR2. But that's going to be it for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it helps to kind of put in perspective what the wiring should look like if done professionally, and what you can do to kind of enhance this engine, make it look a little bit better than it is in its original trim, right? So hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.